Hey y'all, I'm hoping I can get this story time out to y'all without any interruptions, but I just read something um, that I want to share with y'all that really prompted some deep thought and reminded me of one of them readings I just finished. I don't remember if it was the divine masculine or the divine feminine. It might be both, but anyway, if this is your first time joining me, my name is Keita, and if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. So this story time is not necessarily about a story, me sharing a story of some personal account, right? But I'm sitting here reading one of my favorite books, and it's called The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power. And I started reading this book when my awakening was confirmed to me, when I got my first tarot reading. And I asked the reader to suggest some books and crystals and tools that would help me along the journey, since it was confirmed that I was on a very transformational journey. And one of the books that she suggested was this book, and it's The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power by Vernon Howard. It's actually my second copy, because my first one, as I read, sometimes I like to take notes, and I made notes in that one and let somebody else borrow it, and they pretty much started making notes in my book. And so I was like, you can have it. I'll just give me another copy. So I really want to go through this one again, like go through this one and make new notes. I think I might have already started, but anyway, I'm reading in, I don't even know, this looks like it's in chapter 8, Mystical Mysteries That Change Your Life. And on page 128, there's a passage where it says where to find lasting loyalty, that I want to share with y'all, because again, it reminded me of some things we discussed either in the divine masculine reading or the divine feminine reading, or both, the most recent ones, which were the divine masculine one, where I was talking about it being the last dance, and the divine feminine one where I talked about, oh child, what was the name of that one? I do not recall what the name of that reading was. Minding your business. It was something about minding your business, being a master of minding your business, that one. But the passage says, you frequently say that we can live in this rough world without getting roughed up. I really don't see how this can be so. This reads like somebody is addressing this or saying this to the author. An illustration will help. If you ride an airplane along the rough ground, you get bumped. So this is the author responding to the commentary, I guess. So they're saying you frequently say that we can live in this rough world without getting roughed up. I really don't see how this can be so. And then the author is responding with, an illustration will help. If you ride an airplane along rough ground, you get bumped. If you fly above the bumps, they are still there for other people, but they cannot jolt you. You are carried aloft by a new sense of self. And what I get from that is the awareness. Like when you go through something, the bumps in life, and you learn from them, you alchemize your experience, and you leave those experiences with a new sense of self. Things don't affect you the way they affect, that same thing affects other people, which in my experience is very true. Especially if those other people have not taken the time to alchemize their experiences. So it says, but what if I get jolted in the meantime? Be encouraged by this principle. Any shock or tragedy, when met with self-awareness, can never again shock with the same intensity and will eventually disappear altogether. That is why it's important that we not keep going through the same shit over and over and not learning the lesson and turning that lead into gold and into something valuable, wisdom that we crystallize and take forward with us. Because once you get that self-awareness, once you process and reflect and turn that into something valuable, like that, it'll never affect you with the same level of intensity and shock to your nervous system again. And that is one thing that we tend to neglect, is the health of our nervous system. Meanwhile, the nervous system affects all the other systems health that we do pay attention to and prioritize. So it says, what is an example of useful shock or tragedy? Loss. Whenever a man loses something of value, he suffers a degree of shock. Anything that you once felt like you possessed or was secure and you lose it, it comes with a certain level of shock, and also for some even a feeling of rejection. But it says he should then work with and rely upon the mystical principles he has absorbed. He can then come out upon a higher level than before. Everything depends upon the right use of shock, alchemizing it, not just going through shit to be going through shit. He can then come out upon a higher level than before. Everything depends upon the right use of shock. Rightly used, we loosen the chains. Wrongly used, they grow tighter. If you've ever had handcuffs on, you know that there's a certain level of comfort. Nobody wants to be in cuffs anyway. I mean, unless you want some freaky shit, and then of course that's fine. But if you consent to that during Mr. Nasty time, cool, kudos to you, right? I ain't knocking it. But there's also a such thing as not wanting them on, or them being too tight, or being on to the point where it's not as uncomfortable type of thing. So how you move in these situations is the difference between the chains being, or the cuffs being tighter, and being looser, or being tolerable. It says, and the goal is to loosen the chains, right? Because the looser they are, the freer you are. And of course, we're not talking about real chains. We're talking about metaphoric chains, the things that keep you bound, your habits, your conditioning, your patterns. So it says they grow tighter. Suppose you lose someone important to your happiness. You gain strength by seeing that you were deepening upon external values which have no permanency. Maybe you lose popularity or power, become aware that you were using them for a needless sense of identity. Correctly used, shock diminishes future shock. So it's saying here, if you lose somebody who you felt like was important to your happiness, yeah, you lost them, but the lesson that you got from that is that you were dependent on somebody else for your external happiness. That you were codependent in a way, because ultimately you can provide everything you need and want for yourself. Or if it's popularity or power, you become aware when you lose it that you were depending on this needless sense of identity attached to power and popularity. It really wasn't a need. So a lot of this shit, like when you lose it, you begin to see the placebo effect of it all, and how you always have what you need when you need it. Shit, I take me for example. My car was repossessed. It's been a few years now. But the way I live my life now, I don't even want a car. Don't get me wrong, I be wanting to go when I'm ready to go, but I barely be wanting to go anywhere. And I always get where I need to be. Like, that has not been an issue. And the responsibility financially and otherwise, that comes with having a vehicle. I realized, like, I didn't really need a vehicle to begin with. For real. It wasn't a need. It was a want. It was a desire, but it wasn't a need. I ain't gonna die, because if that was the case, I'd be dead by now. And also, there are people who live lives and lifestyles and in different places who the majority of the people don't have a vehicle. They get around by other means and find that to be a less stressful way of getting around. So I just use that as an example as to how when we quote unquote lose something, we're actually, if we handle it properly, process it properly, alchemize it, are gaining something valuable. And when we correctly use the experience to learn a lesson, the shock diminishes any future shock should we have a similar experience. It says, notice that our human level of living goes from one betrayal to another. Look at it. You cling to youth and are betrayed by advancing years. Some of us, we fight tooth and nail to stay young, whether it's by way of how we look, how we act. We are holding on to our youth with a tight fist. Meanwhile, time moves on and we're being betrayed by our advancing years because we still growing. You might as well just accept the aging process for what it is, gain the wisdom for what it is, and like align with the growth process opposed to fighting it, because everything has its divine timing and place. And when we resist divine timing, we only create more struggle and conflict and chaos and tragedy and shock for ourselves. So for some of the trauma that you experience is like not really necessary. It's not necessary to keep repeating those cycles if you just learn to alchemize those experiences the first time. And sometimes you can alchemize other people's experiences. Like, you have the gift of observing what other people are going through. I know that's been a lot of my experience where certain shit I ain't gotta go through, because I could see it being done to somebody else and be like, yeah, no, I'm straight. I don't want none. I'm good. Count me out. Get somebody else to do it. Your wealth and position threaten to leave you at any moment. Your ambitions and your career show treachery by keeping you anxious over them. Listen, what good is all the money and the high acclaimed titles and careers if you always in fear of losing it, or you always in fear of fucking up, or in some way it always has you in fear? Like, that ain't no way to live. Again, pay attention to and prioritize the health of your nervous system. And for a lot of us, we don't realize just how fucked our nervous system is until we get out of those situations. And then when we experience the peace of not being in those situations, it dawns on you like, damn, that shit did a number on me. And the relationships can be like that too. You don't realize just how much of a negative effect certain relationships have on your nervous system until you get out of it and you can breathe, you at peace, you got inner peace, you can think, you can move, you can not move if you don't want to, but you have to get out of it first in order to really see the value of not having that type of energy and influence around you, especially as it relates to your nervous system. It says your relatives and friends betray you by changing or disappearing or quarreling. We'll be all day talking about that. I feel like that's self-explanatory. But people change. And people do what's best for them. So you got to do what's best for you. And this passage here is just saying that the disappointments will come. How you gonna handle them? You cannot avoid some of the disappointments. It's a part of the natural growth process. It's a part of your development. It's a part of your sacred contract. You better learn how to deal with them, and deal with them in a way that helps you to elevate, evolve, and grow, instead of in a way that diminishes you and makes you turn into a monster. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you handle those things in a way that brings you more into your queen and king energy, opposed to have you out here acting like a court jester or a servant, or as they say on the streets, a simp. You know, it's not negative to face all this. It is tremendously positive. It means that the yearning you have for something far better can now be heeded. When this type of shit occurs, it just comes to show you where something or someone does not serve you, and where you're creating the space for what you do want. Now you are aware of what you do want. You're better aware. You can actually name it and claim it and move in that direction toward manifesting it, now that you know and have experienced what you don't want. Having been betrayed long enough on the human level, you are ready for that lofty level where loyalty only exists. You got to get to the level where the loyalty exists. For some of us, our trials and tribulations are teaching us where we aligned with disloyalty because we have not been loyal to ourselves, whether it be our thinking, our habits, the standard of our living. And I'm not talking about material things, but there's a technique for winning all of this. Simply stated, the technique is this: we must cease to know so many wrong things. We must willingly let go of the vanity and pride that pretends it has already won. We be holding on to the wrong shit just because we don't want to admit we was wrong. It's like that song by Erykah Badu that I was talking to y'all about in one of those masculine or feminine videos, where Didn't You Know? And the lyrics to the song were knew the toll, but I would not pay. Didn't you know? Didn't you know? Time to watch my emotions sway. Didn't you know? Didn't you know? Oh, I gotta look it up. Wait a minute. That means I got to use my hotspot. I'm just gonna be hopping through the song because I don't know. I'm not remembering it like word for word. But she says, time to save the world. Where in the world is all the time? So many things I still don't know. So many times I changed my mind. Guess I was born to make mistakes. Some. But she talks about in the song like having a calling, time to save the world, do your part to answer your calling. But time been flying by. And for many of you, it's because you've been trying to hold on to your youth. And like I was saying, time gonna time. We talk about how time is an illusion, but time gonna time. Like, things are gonna move forward with or without you, right? And you're gonna look up and be like, God damn, I wasted all that time. You know what I'm saying? I knew back then I was supposed to make that move and I didn't. And now you have regrets. You know what I'm saying? And how she talks about in the song how spiraling the journey is, how it's not linear, how, going from point A to point B to point C, like how we're pretty much sold a dream that that's the natural trajectory of things, because it's not, especially not for us as humans who are evolving. Excuse me. And then at some point in the song, she says, I think I made a wrong turn back there somewhere. That very much speaks to admitting that you went in the wrong direction and not holding on to whatever said thing is where you made the wrong choice or you took a wrong turn, but course correcting is what this is talking about. Course correcting and how to course correct. So she talks about that in the song, and that is what this is speaking to. We must be willing to let go of the vanity and pride that pretends it has already won. The exit of the false makes room for the true. We talked about in one of those readings, knowing the difference between the real and the fake. A Sufi mystic sums up, sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment. Cleverness is mere opinion. Bewilderment is intuition. By Rumi. I love Rumi. So if you've been following the channel for a minute, you've heard me reference poetry by the Sufi mystic Rumi. I want to tell you how enormously important all these principles are to you. I am not questioning your intelligence when I say that you may not as yet see how overwhelmingly vital they are to your life. This reminds me of when I was saying, like, sometimes people are ignorant, and it's not a diss. It's not a not meant to be offensive when someone, especially somebody who loves and cares about you, points out your ignorance. Sometimes you for real don't fucking know. It's shit I don't know. Especially when it comes to like being logical and rational and in my masculine energy. I'm very much a feminine energy. So when it comes to exuding that, it's a lot of shit a motherfucker can teach me because I'm ignorant to it. I have a lot of books in my home because it's a lot of shit I don't know that I want to know, that I'm ignorant to, and I am humble enough to admit I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything. But that which I do want or need to know, I am humble enough to say, I don't know, I want to know, and there's somebody out there that can teach me, you know what I'm saying? But that takes humility, and for some, your experiences are coming to humble you. And there's a reading that I did called The Great Humbling. I think it was a Soul Food Sundays years ago. So y'all might want to watch that. I'm going to rewatch that, as a matter of fact, because the title is calling me to go back and reflect on that one. But it says, quietly accept the fact that you may not as yet have grasped the magnificence of it all, though it is quite possible that you have had your first grand glimpse. It is 1,000 times more valuable than anything else you now possess. Work to see this. So much, so very much more than you can imagine depends upon it. These ideas are not my personal opinions. They are far beyond that, and they are the very truths that set you free. I'm going to come back down here and talk about this book and other books that I read more often. I actually did a quick review of this book when I first started the channel. And so kind of having a full circle moment here, but I'm all over the place because it's another part that I want to share with y'all. But I would suggest that y'all read this book. I will say that when I first read it, shit was going out straight over my head. I wasn't there yet. I wasn't at the level to receive this information the way that I am now. I came back to it after having had some experience on my spiritual journey, and then the shit was like, I was absorbing it like, hell yeah, like I'm talking to myself while I'm reading the book. But at first I was reading the shit like 4-5 times over, like I don't know what the fuck we talking about here. So that happens. But it says, be of good cheer. Many mysteries are solved when we see that life consists of various levels of understanding. Literally about to talk about what I just said. Everyone occupies a different level. For one thing, we see that we fail at many things because we try to claim the success of a higher level while still occupying a lower level. That is like trying to claim the contents of an apartment on the 6th story while actually living on the 3rd story. To claim the rewards of a certain level, we must certainly be on that level. So that's like trying to be the CEO of a company, but you only have key holder experience. You know what I'm saying? You trying to be the principal, but you only been a teacher for 2 weeks. Like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? So, and that don't mean that you can't have a mentor or somebody that you shadow and learn and be trained to be on that higher level. But you got to stand in your knowingness and accept and submit to the fact that you don't know. So, like, for me, as a divine feminine, high priestess, medicine woman, whatever you want to call me, I don't really get caught up in the names. I had somebody hit me up the other night and was like, girl, I Googled you, and your experience is so impressive. Like, you went to school to get a fucking doctorate. You so humble about it. I don't give a shit about none of that. Don't none of that shit define me. I'm a dope motherfucker with or without it. So, in that same vein, like, I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table, and I know that they really don't make tables big enough for just how much I bring to the table. However, I do feel like, especially on this journey, and other divine feminines could relate, as we are helping divine masculines evolve and grow, setting our standard and our example and whatnot. Like, the man that get with me, the man that get with a divine feminine, if he has not already done the work to align with where I am, especially spiritually, and in terms of maturity in other areas of life, he gotta be willing to submit to me in that way. And not like I intend to tell him what to do or boss him around or nothing like that. I don't have the desire to do none of that. What I mean by submit is own that I may know more and have more experience in this area than you do. Just like you may know more and have more experience in other areas that are important to the connection and the coming together. So that's something important to be mindful of, especially for those who are on the twin flame journey. And typically the feminines lead the way, especially spiritually, to catalyze the masculine energy. And so it wouldn't behoove the masculine to come into the situation trying to run shit in every area when he's inexperienced in some areas. You know what I'm saying? So it's my belief that in a healthy relationship, two people play off of one another's strengths and weaknesses. So where I'm strong, the other person may be weak in that area. And if they're interested in becoming strong, I can help them to become strong in that area. And if I'm weak in the area and it's their strength and I'm interested in becoming strong in the area, they can help me. That's a power couple, using your power to elevate one another, and to get on the same playing field. And that's true adaptability and flexibility, and that is part of the reason why both parties have to go through an ego death in order to even come into union, because otherwise the ego will be the downfall of the relationship, and who the fuck got time for that? But anyway, y'all, I think that applies not only to romantic relationships, but friendships and partnerships, be they professional or otherwise. I hope the message found you well. If it did not find you well, I hope that it leaves you well. Check out this book, The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power. I do know in my experience it has a few covers, so this is the one that I have. It's by Vernon Howard, but when you find it, it may look differently. They might, as a matter of fact, I know they have the audio book for free on YouTube. But I'm old school. Some books I just need to be able to see and highlight and write and all of that. But yeah, until next time, y'all. Peace.